The first thing I felt that night wasn't anger, it was the strange, heavy feeling that something unfinished was waiting for me in that room. The music at the party was loud, people were laughing, glasses were clinking, and the warm golden lights of the gallery made everything look elegant and perfect. But the moment I stepped inside, a strange tension settled in my chest. Because somewhere in that crowd was the family I hadn't seen in 3 years. The family of the woman who once meant everything to me. And then I saw her mother. She stood near the far wall in a simple black dress, graceful as always, talking to a few guests. For a moment I thought about turning around and leaving. Some pasts are easier to avoid than to face. But fate has a strange way of pulling us exactly where we need to be. A few minutes later, she noticed me. Her expression changed instantly, surprise, recognition, and something deeper I couldn't quite read. Then she walked toward me. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one moment can completely change a life, take a second to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the most unexpected moments carry the biggest truths. That night, I thought I was just attending another gallery event. I had no idea I was about to hear words that would change the way I saw the past, and the future. 3 years earlier, my life had fallen apart quietly. Her name was Emily, and for 5 years she had been the center of my world. We met in college, grew together, struggled together, and built dreams that felt solid and permanent. She was the kind of person who filled every room with warmth. Even strangers felt comfortable around her. But love doesn't always end with a dramatic explosion. Sometimes it ends with silence. Emily slowly drifted away from me. At first it was small things, missed calls, shorter conversations, plans that suddenly changed. Then one evening she sat across from me at the small kitchen table we had bought together and told me she needed something different from life. Different from me. There wasn't anger in her voice. Just distance. And somehow that made it hurt more. Within a few months she had moved to another city. Our apartment was empty, our photos were boxed away, and the future I had imagined vanished like it had never existed. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was losing the people who had become my family too. Her parents had always treated me like a son. Her father and I spent weekends fixing things around their house, while her mother and I often talked for hours about books, travel, and life. When Emily left, that connection disappeared overnight. No calls. No messages. Nothing. I assumed they had chosen their daughter's side, and honestly, I never blamed them. Life moved on the way it always does. I threw myself into work, focused on building something new, and eventually convinced myself that the past was exactly where it belonged. Until that night. The gallery event was hosted by a mutual friend who had recently opened a small art space downtown. I almost didn't go, but something pushed me to step out of my comfort zone. And somehow, the universe decided that would be the night everything came back. When Emily's mother approached me across the room, time seemed to slow down. She looked almost the same as I remembered, elegant, calm, thoughtful. But there was also a sadness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. For a moment we simply stood there, facing each other. Then she did something I never expected. She reached out and hugged me. Not the polite kind of hug people exchange at social events. It was the kind that held years of unspoken emotion. When she pulled away, she looked around the room carefully, then leaned closer. "Can we talk for a moment?" she asked quietly. I nodded, confused but curious. She gently guided me away from the crowd, past the paintings and the soft chatter of guests, until we stood near a quiet hallway where the music was barely audible. My heart was beating faster now. There are moments in life when you feel something important is about to happen, even if you don't know what it is yet. This was one of those moments. She looked at me for a long time before speaking. And when she finally did, her voice was barely more than a whisper. What she said next shattered everything I thought I knew. For 3 years, I had believed Emily left because she stopped loving me. But according to her mother, that wasn't the truth at all. Emily hadn't left because she wanted a different life. She had left because she believed it was the only way to protect me. The words didn't make sense at first. My mind struggled to process them. Protect me from what? Her mother took a slow breath before continuing, and the sadness in her eyes deepened. Not long before Emily broke up with me, she had received devastating medical news. A rare genetic condition had been discovered during a routine test. The doctors told her it could eventually become serious, unpredictable, and life-altering. Emily was terrified. Not of the illness itself, but of becoming a burden to the people she loved. Especially me. Instead of telling me, she made a decision that seemed noble in her mind but cruel in reality. She pushed me away. She wanted me to build a future without worrying about hospitals, treatments, or uncertainty. Her mother's voice trembled slightly as she explained it. Emily believed she was sacrificing her happiness for mine. When I heard that, something inside me broke. 3 years of confusion, anger, and quiet heartbreak suddenly rearranged themselves into a completely different picture. All those distant phone calls. The quiet sadness in her eyes near the end. The sudden decision to leave. None of it had been about falling out of love. It had been about fear. And love. The kind of love that tries to protect someone even at the cost of losing them. For a long moment I couldn't speak. The hallway felt strangely quiet, as if the world outside had paused. Finally, I asked the question that mattered most. How is she now? Her mother hesitated. Then she gave a small, hopeful smile. She's stronger than she expected to be. Emily had spent the last few years facing treatments, learning about her condition, and slowly rebuilding her life in a different city. It hadn't been easy, but she had discovered something surprising along the way. The illness wasn't progressing the way doctors initially feared. With proper care and lifestyle changes, she could still live a long, meaningful life. But there was something she still struggled with. Regret. She regretted the way she left. She regretted the pain she caused. And most of all, she regretted never telling me the truth. Her mother reached into her purse and handed me a small folded piece of paper. It was an address. Emily was living only 2 hours away now. She doesn't know I'm telling you this, her mother said gently. But some stories deserve a chance to finish properly. That night, I drove home with my mind spinning. The past I thought I understood had completely changed. And suddenly a question I had buried for years rose back to the surface. What if our story wasn't over? The next morning, I stared at that address for a long time. Fear is powerful. It tells us to stay safe, avoid pain, and leave old wounds alone. But sometimes the greatest regrets in life come from the chances we never take. So I got in my car. The 2-hour drive felt longer than it should have. Every mile carried memories of the past, our first road trip, the little cafe we used to visit on Sundays, the dreams we once shared. When I finally arrived at the address, my heart was pounding harder than it had in years. It was a small house near a quiet park. Simple. Peaceful. I stood outside for several minutes before gathering the courage to knock. Footsteps approached the door. And then it opened. Emily stood there. For a moment neither of us spoke. 3 years of separation hung in the air between us. She looked surprised, confused, and then emotional. Her eyes filled with tears before she even said a word. We spent the next several hours talking about everything that had been left unsaid. The truth. The fear. The love that never truly disappeared. Emily apologized again and again, but the strange thing was, I didn't feel anger anymore. I understood why she did it. She had tried to protect me in the only way she thought possible. And maybe, in a complicated way, that proved how much she cared. Life doesn't always give us second chances. But sometimes it quietly places them right in front of us, and waits to see if we're brave enough to take them. By the time the sun started setting that evening, something had changed between us. Not everything was magically fixed. Real life is more complicated than that. But hope had returned. And sometimes hope is enough to start rebuilding something beautiful. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness, forgiveness, and second chances still exist in the world, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in love and understanding, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles for more stories that restore faith in humanity.